Alexandra Eala keeps it brutally honest after being dominated by Coco Gauff in Dubai. Alexandra Eala didn't want to sugarcoat anything following a brutal 6-0 6-2 defeat to Coco Gauff, admitting that there was still a gap between her and the top players of women's tennis. Earlier in the week, Eala made noise in her Dubai debut after clinching her third top 10 win by beating world number 8 Jasmine Paolini in the second round. The 20-year-old also registered a notable round of 16 win over Sorana Cîrstea, who won Cluj-Napoca earlier this month. After beating some well-known names and reaching the Dubai quarterfinal without a dropped set, Eala certainly didn't lack confidence going into her first meeting against Gauff. But as soon as the match started, it turned into a one-sided battle as the reigning French Open champion won the opening 10 games for a 6-0 4-0 lead before closing out the match with just 2 lost games. When addressing her display, Eala simply admitted that she got completely outplayed by a better player. Eala, there is still a gap in terms of level between me and Gauff and other players of her caliber. I think at the end of the day, yeah, I definitely could have performed better. But yeah, all things aside, at the end of the day, I think there's still definitely a gap in terms of level between me and Coco and, other players of her caliber. So, yeah, I think she did great, and my job is to try and close that gap, and I think I'm doing that quite well. So I'll keep working on it, and hopefully next time we'll be a bit tighter, the Filipina explained. Eala may have lost to Gauff, but having 3 top 10 wins at 20 years old is certainly not a bad thing to have on your resume. Before beating Paolini in Dubai, Eala clinched her first 2 top 10 wins in Miami last year when she beat Iga Swiatek and Madison Keys. Meanwhile, Eala is set to improve 15 ranking spots on Monday and enjoy a new career-high ranking of number 32 in the world. The brutal truth and the beauty of growth. By the time the final point of the Dubai quarterfinal was played, a decisive 6-0, 6-2 victory by Gauff, the scoreboard left little doubt about who controlled the match. On paper, the loss looked lopsided. But beyond the numbers was a deeper, more revealing story, not of defeat, but of self-awareness, honesty, and a young athlete confronting her own limits with maturity and intentional clarity. When Eala stood before the press afterward, she didn't soften the loss. She didn't deflect, deny, or excuse the scoreline. Instead, she said bluntly, "There's definitely still a gap between me and Coco. My job is to try to close that gap." It was refreshingly candid. That admission, still a gap, resonates far beyond a single match. It speaks to an athlete who is learning not to fear the truth about her own performance, even when that truth stings. The match that wasn't close, and why that matters. To casual fans, a 6-0, 6-2 score might seem like a rout. Yet tennis isn't just about games won and games lost. It's about how players respond when the scoreline doesn't match their hopes. In this match, Gauff imposed her game early, capitalizing on pace, precision, and a championship temperament cultivated through years at the sport's highest levels. Eala, still early in her climb, found herself stretched, pinpointing serve games, constructing points, adjusting mid-rally, while Gauff maintained relentless consistency. In such circumstances, it would be easy to retreat into vague platitudes or hollow optimism. Many athletes resort to that instinctively, but not Eala. She told journalists she could have played better, that she was aware it wasn't her best day, and crucially, that she saw exactly what separated her from a player like Gauff at this moment. That sort of awareness, even in defeat, is a sign of development, not weakness. From scoreline to self-reflection. What makes Eala's reaction compelling is her refusal to cling to excuses and her willingness to evaluate honestly. "I think Coco played really well." A simple but mature acknowledgement that the opponent didn't just win, she earned it. "I definitely could have performed better." Not a denial, not a deflection, a straightforward acceptance of responsibility. "My job is to try to close the gap between us." Here lies the heart of her mindset. Not bitterness, not denial, but determination. In a sport full of euphemisms, I just didn't find my rhythm, or she played better today. Eala's choice to name the challenge and own it shows psychological growth. She is learning how to be honest with herself, and that's often one of the hardest lessons for any competitor. The drama on court, support, noise, and distraction. Adding to the narrative was the atmosphere in Dubai. Eala's fanbase had swelled with passionate Filipino supporters, filling the stands, flags flying and chants ringing throughout the stadium. It wasn't just tennis, it was celebration, identity, and pride on display. For many players, an overwhelmingly partisan crowd can be overwhelming. Gauff's approach, light-heartedly treating the cheers for Eala as if they were for her, is now a well-known strategy used by elite players to neutralize crowd effects. It shows that atmosphere, even when loud and supportive for the opponent, can be harnessed rather than feared. But Eala's response to it all, particularly how she remained focused and didn't let the energy compromise her cool, reveals another layer of her evolution. Regardless of scoreboard gaps, she has learned to embrace distractions without losing composure, a skill that separates good players from great ones. Beyond the loss, what Eala stands for. To understand the deeper significance of Eala's reaction, it helps to look at what she represents, not just to Filipino sports fans, but to tennis as a global sport. She stands for progress over perfection. She doesn't pretend everything was perfect. She acknowledges the learning. Visibility on the world stage. Her Dubai run energized Filipino fans worldwide and broadened her support base. Youthful resilience with measured expectations. She doesn't shy away from tough truths, but neither does she shrink from future goals. In short, she embodies the kind of humility that makes champions, not just champions on tour, but champions of personal growth. The words that matter most. When athletes lose, we often focus on what they say about their opponent's greatness or how they will bounce back. What's remarkable about Eala's post-match reaction is that she focused inward, on her own effort, her own shortcomings, and her own path forward. Here are the phrases that matter. There's still a gap. Simple, honest, brave. My job is to close it. An admission not of defeat, but of purpose. I'm on the right path. Despite the scoreline, she views the week, the performance, the learning, the energy from fans, as progress. That kind of perspective turns losses into lessons, and lessons into future victories. What this means for the future. The real story here isn't a single lopsided match. It's a snapshot of a young player in transition. She is not finished. Not in her development, not in her career, and certainly not in her ambitions. Eala is still learning how to temper aggression with consistency, how to convert crowd energy into self-propelling momentum, how to identify tactical limitations without hesitation, and how to thrive in the psychological pressure cooker of top-tier competition.